After decades working in roles that dealt with conflict, discrimination, historical abuse, and some of the most difficult experiences that people can face, recently retired public servant and artist Mervin Singham is entering a new chapter of his life. Through his painting practice, Mervin explores vulnerability, resilience, and what it means to be human. In this episode, we discuss the role creativity can play in recovery and self-discovery, plus what making art can teach us about ourselves. Here's our conversation. Mervin, thank you so much for coming in today and joining us. Welcome into our studio here in Wellington. How are you?
Very good, thank you. And nice to be here. Nice to see you again, André.
Yeah, lovely to see you again too. Hey, so you have just stepped away, obviously, from more than 3 decades in the public service, a very, very long time. Some of your roles include Exec Director of the Royal Commission of Inquiry into Historical Abuse in State Care and in Faith-Based Care. You were also Chief Executive of the Ministry for Ethnic Communities, among a whole bunch of other roles. To begin our chat today, Mervin, what does it actually feel like to remove the tie?
Wow, it feels awesome. My whole career I've been so structured. Well, it's over 32 years of planning, being very thoughtful about the next step I was going to take, and all these roles I've held, some of which you've described. And for the first time, I've got like terrain ahead of me. I know what's going to happen. It feels really cool. Being up in the morning, having a coffee, reading the newspaper, looking outside on the view from our house, and just thinking, this is awesome. I don't know whether it'll wear off. At the moment, I'm just enjoying the liberty and the freedom and new thinking, what have you, that's emerging in my mind.
You spent years, Mervin, working with people navigating some of life's most difficult experiences imaginable: conflict, harm, discrimination, historical trauma, the list goes on. Do you think that art can bear witness to suffering in a way that reports, inquiries, or official processes sometimes can't?
Absolutely, I do. In fact, I almost believe that it's a duty and obligation for people to actually say more about the things that need to be said in society. I'm hugely privileged to be a part of the New Zealand Public Service. I don't know whether people know this, but New Zealand's public service is known as one of the best in the world. So I've been really privileged to have served in that public service for such a long time. And you're right, André, like some of the people I've met, the things I've seen. I remember back in the day after September 11, sitting with Muslim people in a mosque who were traumatized. Some of them were slapped in a supermarket just for being Muslim. The mosque attacks in Christchurch, desecration of Jewish graves, survivors of abuse in care, it just goes on. I also saw in all those dark things a lot of light. Some amazing people that we never hear about.
Yeah.
We never see them on the front page. We don't hear their voices. But they're dealing with all the cracks and fissures in society without expecting anything in return. Art has got such a big role to play in society, as it always has. Sometimes art has been the cause of revolution. Images that compelled basic, ordinary people to understand something that was trying to be said. So in my mind, I use my art to try and draw upon some of these things that I've experienced, both the dark and the light, hopefully to illuminate somebody else's life, another community's life, changes that might need to come ahead of us.
What responsibilities, Mervin, do you think an artist has when they depict pain or vulnerability in their works?
Obviously, when you paint anything that depicts pain or historical experience, anything like that, it can trigger people, can make them upset. So in my thinking, there's a careful line to be walked. Number one, never individualize the situation without a person's consent. There's privacy. You have to make sure their story is honored, and that includes checking in with them before you paint their story. I think for me, what I tend to do is to paint collective experiences that people I know want that story to be told about them as a community. I think of Picasso's painting of Guernica,
Yes.
which talked about civil war. The painting was actually, it depicted people in pain, mothers losing kids, animals that were injured, that kind of thing. So when people see that, they are, of course, the community in Guernica would have felt something about, their village being portrayed that way. But it's actually an anti-war message. And I think that resonates not only with that group of people, but everyone else around the world. So that's the kind of line I try and take in my work. One example of a painting I did that did exactly that was a painting called Refugee Lullaby. And it's kind of an image, it's expressionist, so it's not, like exacting in a figurative sense, but it's an image of a person standing in the woods, and they're surrounded by objects they're trying to clasp, and there's a sort of a smear across their face, which is the lullaby. Why does that painting give me a sense of release when I finished it? My whole career is dealing with people who are displaced, and all the suffering they went through, the legal procedures they have to grapple with to remain where they are, that kind of thing. One of the things I heard from many of these people was the memories of home, the lullabies their mothers sang to them. That kind of thing is what carried them through. These things never came through to the official processes that they were dealing with, which are somewhat template-driven and so on. So when I finished telling that story, as it were, on the compounded stories of many displaced people, I actually felt a sense of release that I had, as an official, been dealing with all these problems and people, and they couldn't tell that story, and I was able to express it on a canvas. So I felt, okay, a part of me, a valve was kind of opened, and I felt a bit more resolved.
Yeah, or even seen, right?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
this visibility, of
Yes.
like you, even if you can't articulate something, you just know or you feel it.
100%. To me, dealing with those former refugees, I was acutely aware that society thinks of them as refugees. People have come from, a developing country, something, and now they're here in New Zealand or America, whatever. But their stories, who they are, the pain they've gone through, the tenacity that they have within themselves to
Huge,
survive,
yeah.
that doesn't come through. So I hoped that my painting was able to be a valve for that.
Kind of on this note, do you think art, Mervin, can validate someone's experience without explicitly telling their story, like what we were just talking about?
Yes, I do. I absolutely do. I know I've had some really unusual experiences with painting because for me, I think painting is not just like a visual image. You put everything, if you paint from your gut, then you're putting everything you feel, you believe, your experiences on a canvas. And the painting becomes more than just an object you hang on a wall. I believe it actually emanates a certain kind of energy that's hard to explain. And while I've believed that, I've had actually literal experiences of it. So I remember one exhibition, I painted this painting. My partner had lost his dad, and there was a lot of grief in our family. As I was painting, I began to realize I was actually painting the experience of loss.
Wow.
And the painting was called Second Sight. It was a little bit expressionist, so it's hard to see literally what it meant. But I was trying to say, when we lose people, we can still kind of see them in our mind. They're
Yeah.
still with us. Anyway, that painting was in the gallery, the exhibitions gallery around the corner here. And a woman purchased it, so I saw a little red dot on it. And the director of the gallery, Ron, said, she wants to talk to you, to tell you, she wants to know a little bit more about the painting. So I rocked up to the painting and said, how can I help? And she said, can you tell me what this painting is?
Oh no.
Must say, I thought, I don't want to tell her it's about grief. What if she doesn't want to buy something about grief?
Right, yeah.
So I said, are you sure you want to know? And she said, yes. And I said, okay, well, here you go. So I told her exactly what I just shared before. And she started weeping. And I thought, oh my goodness, does she want to resell
Yeah.
the painting like she doesn't want it? But she said, I can't believe it, because when I saw this painting, it reminded me of my mother, who just passed away 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
And I actually really feel that. And the painting just resonated. And I was just like in awe of how art can speak across boundaries that we cannot explain sometimes.
Yeah.
It's so rewarding to be able to do that. So it can validate people's experiences, even if what you're seeing doesn't directly relate to what you might, ordinarily consider.
I love that too, second sight, because it's almost like she also was the second sight, of this. She saw in that in the painting her own experience,
Yes.
the second sight of the same thing that you and your partner felt, probably.
Yes.
Yeah, very powerful. Do you, on this again note of seeing, Mervin, do you think people want to feel seen when they encounter art?
I don't think that's always the case.
Right.
But I think, one of the wonderful things about a painting is or sculpture, whatever, you can perceive it. And sometimes you'll see something in it where your experience resonates. Not always, but when it does, it can be a source of real healing. So there was a painting in my most recent exhibition called When I Removed My Tie. It's a large painting, and it's kind of painting my experience of just leaving the public service and having a whole new chapter ahead of me. And the person that bought that painting said, I can see my own life in this,
Oh,
my
wow.
own sort of background, my career,
The
and the choice I
journey.
made. Yeah, my
Yeah,
journey.
yeah.
So, yeah, I think people seek to see something of themselves, but not always. I was thinking of a painting I saw very early on when I was a young, a child. I saw a painting by Vincent van Gogh, the iris painting, which, some people may know. It's all blue irises, and then there's one white iris.
Right.
Now, if you're in a gallery seeing that painting, you might just pass it by and go, oh, lovely bunch of flowers. But I observed this painting. I thought, why did he paint one white? And I inquired into it to understand. And it occurred to me that he was painting a little bit of his own experience. He lived in a society where he felt like an outsider. He was different. He was marginalized. His work was not recognized at all in his lifetime. So that actually kind of validated my own feelings about myself. I suddenly felt I do feel alone, isolated sometimes. Other people feel it. It's okay. I think this is the power of art, isn't it?
Have there been things, Mervin, that you've only understood about yourself through making art?
I think for me, it's something I'd highly recommend to people who paint or paint to do anything artistic. It can be a great source of healing. I've discovered things about myself through painting, maybe because it magnified particular emotions or experiences that I'd suppressed or I'd turned my eye away from. So I remember a painting I did called The Dance That Set Me Free. Well, I hadn't
Wow.
planned it. It was just like something that emerged on a canvas. But basically, what I was painting is the kind of nuanced journey I had with my partner in our relationship. And in the beginning, because my past experiences made me less trusting of people, I was doing this little bit of a dance, things to make it difficult, things to sabotage the relationship, things that would prevent unconditional love coming from me to him. And when I painted that painting, I suddenly realized what it actually was all about and how much of that dance that I'd been, kind of doing for a while, probably not just with him, but a whole bunch of
In
other
your life.
people in my life.
Yeah.
And that was very revealing and healing, and it was confronting, and it made me think, I've got to do something about this. And I did, so painting can be a huge source of healing and self-revelation, understanding of yourself, and certainly of others.
And this moment of realization too, of being like, oh, yeah, like that's what that is. And like,
Exactly.
on this note, also, Mervin, do you paint to understand or because you already understand?
It's interesting, my painting process. I just start with a canvas, I throw some paint on it. I don't know what's going to come out. And then I see things in the canvas, and then I start collaborating with the canvas, almost like there's something that is seeking to be told visually, and my job to kind of draw it out. And then as I paint, it kind of morphs into something. Frequently, I find at the end of the painting, I have brought into the image a message that needs to be told, an experience that needs to be exposed to the public. I find it's like a deeply spiritual thing, to be honest. So it probably is a combination of the both. Things I understand or I'm seeking to understand or don't understand that I think other people need to take the journey to understand. Yeah, it's complex, yeah.
Can you walk me through what that experience and process is like for you? Like, how do you feel inherently after you do finish a work? Is there maybe a sense of resolution, or does it raise new questions when you finish it?
When I'm sitting in my gallery painting, putting all my emotions, my thoughts, my experiences onto a canvas, you have a connection with this thing you're creating. It's not just an object, it's a thing that you have put your fingerprints on. I'm talking about your fingerprints of your soul on. And when you let it go, it kind of does feel like you're saying goodbye to a friend. So in my mind, everything you paint, it has that sort of indelible kind of imprint of yourself on the canvas. And when I finish a painting, I don't always finish. Some of them are sitting in my studio, haven't completed for years. But when I finish it, I know that story is done. I've completed it. It's done. When it's done, I always feel resolved, like I have to have a glass of wine. Okay,
Yeah.
it's like having a great session with a friend
Yeah.
who's counseled you and given you thoughts, and you've had a good banter with them along the way, and now you're sitting down and say, okay, we've had our afternoon
Feel
together.
good.
It's a bit
Yeah.
like that.
On this note, again, though, Mervin, what role, could I ask you, does for you creativity play in recovery, resilience, or maybe even survival, as a human being?
I'm so glad you asked this question, André, because, In my jobs, that you mentioned earlier on, there are so many intractable problems, complexity, wicked issues in society we have to deal with, right? And sometimes we try and use the same old formulas we've been using for a long time to solve the things that we've been seeing also for a long time. And in my thinking, we need to be creative to kind of think outside the box. And that's the whole thing about painting, being, doing art. It actually looks at doing things outside the box, not following conventions and rules and so on. So in my mind, more and more people should embark on something creative, whatever it is, however small or big it is. Because in your mind, it rewires everything. You start thinking in a different, creative way and helps you solve problems much, much better. And I think in our society, we need a lot more creative people to come up with different ways of thinking, new solutions that break boundaries that maybe people have held for a long time.
Did you see that at all, Mervin, like thinking again about some of the people and the stories you encountered throughout your career in the public service where creativity had made a tangible difference to someone's life or experience or helped them process something maybe? Or did you ever encounter someone where you felt like creativity could help them?
A lot, actually. When I was working overseas, in conflict zones overseas, I saw children painting painful things that children should not paint or draw. And for them, it was a form of self-expression. And when you express what's inside you, what's burdening you, pain or whatever, it's a way of releasing it. It's like talking to a friend, as I said before. It also was healing for the community they're in because they suddenly saw their children making these drawings and paintings that depicted pain and suffering beyond the years of the children who are doing it. So for that community, it's also a time of reckoning to go, we got to do something about this. So I think this is the force of creativity that actually can draw out things that society needs to grapple with and to take us forward into a better place.
Do you maybe want to expand on this idea of confrontation, Mervin, since it's come up a couple of times, like I'm thinking in art or the creative process? Yeah, do you think it's important almost to some degrees that there is that moment of reckoning?
Well, different painters, different artists do different things. Sometimes people want a pleasing landscape or a bowl of fruit over there, sofa. That's cool. That's awesome. In my work, I sometimes do things that are confronting. Maybe not intentionally, but they are. I remember one exhibition I had in Auckland where a man walked around the gallery at fast pace, looked at them all, came and said to me, because he knew I was the painter, and said, "Why do you paint all these things? It really is upsetting," and walked out. And I realized that my work was very confronting for him. And I actually thought, good job,
Yeah.
Because sometimes art needs to confront. Not everything in life is pleasant. Life is full of dark and light and joy and sadness and so on. And sometimes a piece of art that is confronting is what releases you from the darkness that you might have inside. So, for example, if you saw something that's upsetting and you went home and thought, why did it upset me? And you get a train of thought that makes you question why that thing was upsetting, that may be the door to you finding some healing, to something deep inside you that you didn't even know was there. So in my mind, whether it's on an individual level or societal level, sometimes art can confront, and so it should.
It's interesting, and I love your example of the still life or like a bowl of fruit, for instance. And I wonder, do you think that difficult experiences in life inevitably almost make their way into any art, whether it even is, again, this idea of intentional, unintentional, unconscious, conscious maybe, like could a still life of a bowl of fruit say, maybe this holds pain for someone, right? Potentially.
Absolutely. You could paint a bowl of fruit, and maybe one of the fruit has a part of it that's rotting, that says something about, where you're at. So it really depends what you're trying to do. But for me, the whole art journey I've had for over 20 years is a bit of a struggle in myself to make sure I'm drawing from deep within myself, whatever is there, and avoiding the head that prevails in my day job, as it were. So it actually is about drawing from that. And when you do that, all sorts of things inevitably come out because it's about you, your experience, your life, the way you think and feel. All of that emerges. And sometimes it's like, I can't believe that I've painted something that has brought all of that out, and you can see it visually. It's a pretty amazing experience.
Yeah. Do you think, Mervin, like when thinking about, it doesn't have to be a symbol in a work, but like in a painting, that vulnerability is something that's obvious in an artwork? Or, what is the hallmark of vulnerability, maybe, in an artwork for you?
I think, firstly, as anyone will agree, it's very much what the beholder sees. You can only see something that's already inside you. Otherwise, you simply can't. So if you saw a painting of a bowl of fruit and you didn't notice that one of the lemons in the bowl was slightly blemished or rotting, you just pass by. But somebody else who sees it will perceive there's something different about this lemon. What's the painter trying to say? So I think vulnerability inevitably emerges on your canvas if you draw from deep inside you, and people will also see it if they have that openness to their own vulnerability.
Do you think an artwork can be technically accomplished but emotionally untruthful?
Yes, I do. Painting something technically well is not to be underestimated. It takes a lot of time and patience and energy to get something painted technically accurately. But if you don't put your emotion into it, if you don't put your fingerprint from inside you, then I think it can be devoid of something. In a world that's so driven by commerce, people want to sell their work. 100% understandable. But I think the works that eventually make it into, collectors, collections and so on, are the ones where you really feel from your gut something. And the technical capability might take a bit of a sidestep. I always think of the famous singer Billie Holiday from way back. I don't know how many of your audience might know her.
I hope they know Billie Holiday.
Well, I certainly hope so, right? Voice, maybe technically not the best, but she just conveyed something from her soul about her experience as a black woman living back in the day. And it comes through in every piece of music she's ever created. I think artistic endeavor is always about that. Are you really expressing something from the depths of who you are? And then the technical capability comes second.
On that note, maybe, if I could ask you, Mervin, how important is hope to your work?
Hope is just so incredibly important because my whole career, my whole life, in fact, I've worked to see there is dark. We have to confront the dark things. So much of it's happening in the globe right now. But beyond that is light. And if we confront the dark, then you can see the light. And even in the darkest paintings I've made, some of them are, I have to stand back and go, do I want this in my house? But I think those paintings even have a light behind them. It's actually to say there is hope beyond what we're experiencing now in our lives or in society. Indeed, you can't perceive light if you don't see dark first, and the other way around. So it's incredibly important that my paintings give hope to people, that it stirs something in them to see beyond where they might be now individually in their lives, or as a community, or as a society.
What has art, Mervin, taught you about being human?
Art has taught me everything about being human. I think I'd sacrificed a lot, actually, to carry on being an artist, because it's about our humanity. Every piece of work I've done from the beginning until today, which is a 20-year journey, is about our humanity. And when I say it's our humanity, there's so many things in society that suppress us from being who we are. We're supposed to be something or somebody that others expect us to be. But when you paint or do something creative, you're drawing from the deep part of yourself, which is only you can be. I believe that art is about humanity at the end of the day, and true art is anyway.
I think just lastly, Mervin, you've brought in an object from your creative life to share with us today. Can you tell us what it is and what's the story behind it? This little statue?
Yeah, it's a little sculpture. So this was like pretty much almost the beginning part of my painting journey. I was walking in Paris in Montmartre.
Oh, wow.
And I was at that time beginning to think about what I want to paint and, like who am I as an artist?
Right.
And I came to this shop and saw this little object of two figures clasping each other in a deep embrace.
Cuddling,
It's like arms embraced around each other. And I thought, that's what I need to do through my work. It's a form of activism of the heart, as I call it. It's to do things in my work that bring people together, that makes people want to embrace each other, to be humane, to be compassionate, to be kind. And this could be two individuals or communities or even two
True.
countries.
Yeah, like a big hug.
Yeah, a big
Yeah.
hug. Well, everybody needs a hug.
Yeah.
God knows these days we do.
Oh, tell me
And
about it.
why don't we do it? Through our art, through our work, through the interactions we have with each other every day.
Yeah, and also the sense of support,
Yes.
like being held
Yeah.
as well as holding
Yeah.
our counterpart or, someone else. I love that.
That's so true, André. It's about holding each other, in metaphorically even, to care for others, basically, who are not ourselves. We're caring for the other, and we need a lot more of that today. And art can be a facilitator of that, in my view.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming in today, Mervin. I love that.
Thank you, André. Pleasure to be here.
That was Mervin Singham, and I'm André Chumko. You can find more episodes of Articulate on YouTube, Spotify, or at thepost.co.nz/articulate. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.